God knows I tried not to. Just worrying about myself and my children.
Viola Davis thought she knew Cicely Tyson. They worked together for years. They talked like family. But 3 weeks before Tyson died, something happened during a phone call that lasted 3 hours. Davis realized Tyson had been hiding something the entire time. What Tyson said backstage wasn't just words of wisdom. It was a confession that explained decades of choices, sacrifices, and pain. Today, we're revealing what Davis finally shared about that conversation and why it hit so different. Cicely Tyson was born on December 19, 1924, in East Harlem. She was the youngest of 3 children. Her parents had come from the tiny island of Nevis in the West Indies. Her father, William, was just 21 when he arrived in New York in 1919. He passed through Ellis Island, like many immigrants back then. He worked with his hands, he painted, fixed things, carried wood, did whatever it took to survive. Her mother, Frederica, worked in other people's homes, cleaning to make ends meet. At first, they lived in the Bronx, but by the spring of 1927, when Cicely was only 2, they moved to East Harlem. Her parents split up not long after, and her mother was left with 3 children and barely any money. They ended up on welfare. Cicely saw poverty every day. She saw how her mother struggled. Her father was gone. They had to make it on almost nothing. Her mother was strict, deeply religious. She didn't allow movies, didn't allow dancing, didn't even allow listening to certain music. Everything had to be about God. Cicely went to church all the time. She sang in the choir. She attended prayer meetings. But inside, something in her wanted more. She started watching movies secretly, not because she wanted to disobey, but because something about it moved her. It felt like magic, but her mother didn't see it that way. When she found out Cicely was even thinking about modeling or acting, she was furious. She told her she would rather lose her as a daughter. And for years, she did. They didn't speak. Cicely had to grow up early. She was only 9 when she started working. She stood on street corners in Harlem, selling shopping bags to strangers. This was during the Great Depression. She was just a child, but already she was facing the world. She saw how white customers would skip over her, how they'd buy from white children, but not her. Or if they did buy, they'd pay her less. These things left marks on her, but they also made her strong. At 17, she dropped out of high school. She needed money. She started working as a typist at the Red Cross. She wasn't making much, but it was a job. During her lunch breaks, she'd walk through Lord & Taylor on 5th Avenue, looking at the expensive clothes she could never afford. One day, while she was looking at dresses, someone tapped her on the shoulder. They asked what modeling agency she worked for. She said she wasn't a model. They told her she should be. That moment changed everything. It was like fate had reached out and touched her. But when her mother found out, it was the final straw. She told Cicely to leave. She said, "You can't live in my house and do that." So Cicely packed up and left. She moved in with a friend. They shared clothes. They shared food. Cicely was hurt, but she also felt something shift, like she was finally free to find her path. Even though her mother stopped talking to her, she held on to one thought, that maybe there was something she was meant to do. In 1961, at age 37, she landed a major role in a play called The Blacks. It wasn't just any play. It ran for 1,408 shows and became the longest-running non-musical off-Broadway in that entire decade. She shared the stage with Maya Angelou, James Earl Jones, and Louis Gossett Jr. But even with all that success, the pay was unfair. Black actors in that show earned almost half of what white actors earned in similar plays. Cicely got recognition. She won the Vernon Rice Award. but she still had to take side jobs just to survive. She had studied at the Actors Studio back in the 1950s. That place was tough. She was one of just 3 black students. People there made cruel comments. They said she should only play maids. They wouldn't even partner with her in class. While she paid the same tuition, $50 a month, she was left out of the networks and chances that helped others get ahead. She practiced scenes alone. She cried, but she didn't quit. Her first TV appearance came in 1951, but it was a bitter experience. She was told to lighten her skin with layers of harsh makeup. It took over 90 minutes just to prepare her. The chemicals burned, but if she refused, she would have lost the role. That day, she made a decision. She would never again take roles that made her feel ashamed of who she was. She turned down offers that asked her to lighten her skin, even if they offered big money. Her first movie role was in 1956 in Carib Gold. She was paid $150 for 2 weeks of work. That's about $1,500 today. The role was small, and she played a maid. She spoke in a fake accent. It made her uncomfortable. After the movie was released, she felt ashamed. She refused to take another role like that. She turned down more than 20 roles over the next 5 years, roles that could have earned her $15,000. She chose dignity over money. In 1962, she acted in Moon on a rainbow shawl. Critics loved it. She won another Vernon Rice Award, but white audiences didn't show up. The show closed early. She earned just $75 per week and lost $2,000 in expected income. She had to take a secretary job again just to keep going. It was a painful lesson. Even good reviews couldn't protect black actors from racism in the theater world. Then came a huge moment in 1963. She got a regular role on East Side, West Side, a CBS drama. She played a secretary named Jane Foster. But the real shock was her hair. She wore it natural on TV. No one had ever seen that. Black women all over the country were stunned. So were TV executives. Around 60 CBS stations refused to air the show just because she was in it. Most of those were in the South. The show only lasted 26 episodes, but her choice made history. Ebony magazine later called her the mother of the Afro. In 1968, she starred in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. She played Portia, the daughter of a proud black doctor. The film got Oscar attention. Her line to her father, "I wasn't white, and you wouldn't let me be black," was unforgettable. It showed her power as an actress. But success came with more closed doors. Studios offered her maid roles, drug addict roles. She said no. She lost money, but she held her ground. In the mid-1960s, she joined an off-Broadway show called A Hand is on the Gate. It celebrated the words of black poets like Langston Hughes and James Baldwin. She poured her heart into every performance. But not everyone liked it. Racist groups sent threats. Protesters gathered outside, but the cast kept going. They knew it mattered. In 1967, she appeared on I Spy with Bill Cosby. It was supposed to be a milestone, but the network censored romantic scenes between them. They were both black. Still, the idea of a romantic story between black characters scared executives. It was a clear message. Black actors were still being treated like they didn't belong. Cicely felt insulted. Then came the blaxploitation wave. Black films filled with violence, drugs, and stereotypes. Cicely refused to be part of it. She said no to every offer. That decision nearly destroyed her financially. For 2 whole years, from 1968 to 1970, she barely worked. One producer told her she was crazy, but she stayed firm. She told Parade magazine in 1972, "I won't play that kind of characterless role anymore, even if I have to go back to starving." She modeled again. She taught acting. She waited for something real. In 1972, Cicely Tyson stepped into a role that would change her career forever. She played Rebecca Morgan in Sounder, a poor sharecropper's wife trying to hold her family together during the Great Depression. They filmed it in the heat of rural Louisiana in 1971, and everything was real. The sweat, the dust, the silence between words. On March 27, 1973, when the Academy Awards rolled around, Tyson was nominated for Best Actress. She was 47. Only 2 black actors were nominated that night, her and Paul Winfield, who played her husband. That year, she told the New York Times she was done with playing maids, prostitutes, or drug addicts. She said no to scripts everyone else said yes to. She wanted dignity on screen, or nothing. One white journalist told her later that watching her son call his father Daddy in that film made him realize something he never had before. We're human beings. Just 2 years later, she made history again. She was 50, and she took on the role of a woman who lived to be 110. The autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman wasn't just another role. It became something bigger. Each day, she sat through 4 hours of makeup, layered piece by piece with new prosthetic techniques. Stan Winston and Rick Baker, using Dick Smith's methods, applied 15 to 17 rubber pieces on her face, her neck, her hands. It was 90 degrees and humid in Louisiana. The glue would melt off her face. The sweat would soak the foam, and by the end of the day, pieces would hang off unless they were stuck back with eyelash glue. They had to shoot close-ups first because the makeup would fall apart. Still, she carried every scene like it was her own life. On May 28, 1974, she won 2 Emmy Awards for it. Nearly 40 million people watched. That was almost half of all the TVs in America. 3 years later, in 1977, Roots aired on national television. For 8 nights, 130 million people watched America confront its past. Tyson played Binta, the mother of Kunta Kinte. She stood there, a mother from Africa, losing her son to chains. She worked beside LeVar Burton in scenes the network thought were too graphic to show. But they aired them anyway. People couldn't look away. Tyson said the role stayed with her, that it reached into her own life and didn't let go. The miniseries sparked something bigger. It made people research their own ancestry. Genealogy studies jumped by 3,000%. She earned her 3rd Emmy nomination for that, and Roots went on to win 9 total. For 30 years, she stayed away from Broadway. But in 2013, at the age of 88, she returned for The Trip to Bountiful. That role had haunted her since she watched the 1985 film. She asked for the role over and over in the 80s and 90s, but no one called her back. Then one day in 2012, Horton Foote's daughter Hallie reached out and offered her the part in an all-black production. Tyson said she fell out of her chair. 8 shows a week, some of them lasting 2.5 hours. She pushed through all of them. On June 9, 2013, she won the Tony Award for Best Actress. She was one of the oldest people to ever win it. The show made over $1.2 million each week. After the run, they filmed a Lifetime movie version in just 15 days, and she got another Emmy nomination for that. She said it was her dream role. She could retire now, she said, but there was always something she wouldn't do. In 1978, she turned down a major role in The Wiz. Everyone else would have taken it. She didn't. That wasn't who she was. In 1972, she had already made it clear she wouldn't take roles that damaged her or her people, even if it meant going back to starving. That year alone, she turned down more than a dozen roles because they were shallow. Her agent at William Morris got tired of it. They split in 1977. Producers called her difficult. She didn't care. She said she'd rather have peace of mind than have to pay a therapist to undo the damage. In 1975 and 1976, she barely worked. Her income dropped by 75%, but her influence only grew. Viola Davis later said Tyson made it clear black actors didn't have to settle. In 1997, she got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, August 21, 7080 Hollywood Boulevard. Not 1982, like some people think. By then, she had earned it with every silent no, every role she refused, and every role she said yes to for the right reason. It had been decades of waiting, of holding the line. She had said back in 1972 that she was tired of seeing black women shown as broken. She didn't want to play someone without soul anymore, even if that meant years without a job. One of her biggest victories came in 1994. She won her third Emmy for The Oldest Living Confederate Widow Tells All. It aired on May 1st and 3. She played a housekeeper to a Confederate soldier, but not the kind you've seen in old movies. This was different. Strong, layered, full of quiet power. Around that time, black actresses were being paid far less than their white male co-stars. According to the National Women's Law Center, they earned just 67 cents to the dollar. She rarely talked about money, but you could see the cost in how little she worked. She said no to roles that didn't feel right, even when the bills piled up. In 1991, she played Cicely in Fried Green Tomatoes. It was a small role, but it mattered. The film showed what it was like to live in the South after the war, with all the racism, all the silence, and all the danger. She never played stereotypes. Never once. Even when they offered her the money, she stayed true. The movie got praise for its look and feel, but Tyson was the reason it had soul. In 1989, she joined The Women of Brewster Place. It aired on March 19th and 20. Oprah Winfrey produced it. Tyson played a mother again, one trying to understand her daughter. Over 35 million people watched each night. It won the NAACP Image Award and a GLAAD Media Award. A year later, it became a weekly show. The whole thing was about black women, how they loved, how they struggled, how they survived. Exactly the kind of project Tyson always waited for. In 2015, at 91, she received the Kennedy Center Honors. Tyler Perry introduced her. He said she chose to lift others up, even when they didn't know it was possible. CeCe Winans sang her favorite hymn, Blessed Assurance. Kerry Washington and Viola Davis joined the tribute. The next year, in 2016, President Barack Obama gave her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Then in 2018, she received an honorary Oscar. She was the first black woman to receive it in that category. Her personal life had its own quiet storms. She married Kenneth Franklin in 1942, when she was just 18. Their daughter Joan was born 2 months later, in February 1943, but Franklin walked out in June 1944. She said he never proposed. She said it all happened the night he lifted her dress. She was left alone with a baby, working as a secretary, struggling with depression, and legally tied to him until 1956. Later came Miles Davis. They married in 1981. The marriage lasted 7 years, but it was not peaceful. Davis had a temper, and he had a history. He punched her once at a dinner party. He thought she had thrown a knife. She hadn't. He apologized right away. She said it never happened again. But in his book, he admitted to hitting other women before her. He blamed drugs, jealousy, rage. He admitted cheating just 5 days after they got married. In 1984, he had another public outburst. Tyson left in 1987. The last fight ended with her grabbing his hairpiece and walking out. Their divorce was final in 1989. Davis died in 1991. Their daughter Joan had her own pain. Tyson sent her to boarding school so she could focus on her work. She thought it was the best thing. But Joan felt abandoned. She didn't want the spotlight. She didn't want to be the daughter of someone who belonged to the world. Tyson never talked about her daughter in public, not once. But in her memoir, she said Joan had paid the highest price. She dedicated the book to her. There was something powerful about how Tyson moved through the world. She didn't just act. She decided what was worth doing and what wasn't. Every time she said no, it meant more than a yes ever could. And every time she showed up, she reminded people who they were. That's why her name still holds weight. Not because of fame, but because of how she used it. In 2011, Cicely Tyson was 87 years old when she took a role in The Help. She played Constantine Jefferson, the maid who raised the main character. The film made over $221 million and got several Oscar nominations. But behind the scenes, Cicely wasn't happy. She argued with producers about the script. She believed some scenes didn't respect what Black domestic workers really went through. She didn't want to play a role that felt fake or watered down. She asked for changes and pushed for a more honest story, even though it created tension. To her, dignity mattered more than money or fame, even at 87. Between 2015 and 2020, she took another big role, this time on TV. She played Ophelia Harkness in How to Get Away with Murder. She was already 90 years old when the show started. Most people her age were resting, but Cicely was memorizing difficult legal dialogue, filming 16-hour days, and doing heavy emotional scenes. She was so committed that she never asked for easier work, even when her body clearly needed rest. She earned 5 Emmy nominations for this role. Viola Davis, who played her daughter, later said she was proud but also worried. Tyson once told Time magazine, "Retirement means death to me." She worked until the very end. In 2013, when she was 88, she came back to Broadway after 30 years. She starred in The Trip to Bountiful. At first, critics questioned if she could handle the lead role at that age. But she proved everyone wrong. The show ran for 187 performances, her longest ever on stage. She won the Tony Award for Best Actress, becoming the oldest woman to ever win it. During her acceptance speech, producers tried to cut her off, but she didn't stop. She looked at the crowd and said, "You wrapped me up in your arms after 30 years, and now I can go home with a Tony." She had spent her life being told no, and here she was, taking the biggest bow of her career. In 2020, she released her memoir, Just As I Am. It had 432 pages and came out on January 26, 2021. 2 days later, she died. But the book was full of raw truth. She talked about being blacklisted in the 1970s for refusing to do nude scenes, even though she had just been nominated for an Oscar in 1972. She explained how saying no to disrespectful roles cost her jobs and money. She said people called her difficult, but she replied, "I insist on respect." She also opened up about her marriage to Miles Davis, calling him a womanizer and an addict, and sharing how it broke her emotionally. The book became a New York Times bestseller. Her last TV role was in Cherish the Day, which aired in 2020. She played Miss Luma Lee Langston, a wise older woman in a story about love across generations. But filming wasn't easy. The pandemic hit, and everything became harder. COVID-19 slowed production, forced safety rules, and pushed her body even more. Her final episode aired on March 24, 2020. A birthday scene with Quincy Jones was her last major screen moment. When she died in 2021, it became the last show for her and for Richard Roundtree, who died in 2023. Ava DuVernay, who created the show, later dedicated it to her. In 2018, the Oscars finally gave her an honorary award. She was 93. It came 45 years after her first nomination. During her speech, she revealed something shocking. She had been hiding serious heart problems for years. No one knew she was battling health issues while building her career. She said she came from a poor area once called the slums and couldn't believe the Academy still remembered her. She hadn't done a major movie since The Help, and the call from the Academy made her cry. She said, "I went to water." She had kept so much hidden, and now she let it all out. On January 27, 2021, she gave her final interview, just 1 day before she died. She was 96. She looked sharp and spoke clearly on Live with Kelly and Ryan. She was promoting her book and shared the secrets to her long life. She said she never drank, never smoked, and became a vegetarian after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. She also told a story from her childhood. A stranger once told her mother, "She has a sixth sense. She will make you proud one day." That prophecy stayed with her until the end. The year 2020 had been especially lonely for her. During the pandemic, she was stuck inside, separated from friends and family. At 95, she was already facing the struggles of old age. But lockdown made things worse. Still, she kept working. She focused completely on finishing her memoir. It felt urgent, like she knew she had to tell her story before it was too late. She worked closely with Michelle Burford, her co-author, and finished the book just weeks before she passed. She never stopped moving. Cicely Tyson died on January 28, 2021, just 2 days after the book came out. One day after her last interview, her family announced she had passed peacefully. No cause was given. Her longtime manager said there were no signs she was close to death. It felt like her timing had been planned, as if she knew her story was complete. After her death, new details came out. Despite her fame, she struggled financially. Her book explained why. She had turned down many high-paying jobs because they didn't respect Black women. She said, "I couldn't afford the luxury of just being an actress." She felt responsible for representing her race. She didn't take just any role. This meant she worked less and earned less. But she stayed true to her values, even when it hurt. One of the most emotional moments came in a private phone call just weeks before her death. It lasted 3 hours. She spoke to Viola Davis, who felt something different during the call. Viola later said, "It felt like a goodbye." Tyson gave her one final piece of advice. "What's for you in this life, you will get." Davis never forgot it. She said Tyson wasn't trying to leave something for her. She was trying to leave something in her. That kind of deep connection had always defined their relationship. In 2014, when Tyson first joined How to Get Away with Murder, Davis was waiting by the door to greet her. But Tyson walked right past her, without saying a word. Davis was hurt, until she learned the reason. Tyson had already become the character. She was fully in Ophelia's world and wasn't breaking character for anything. That moment taught Davis a lesson she never forgot. Their bond wasn't just professional. It was something more. Davis once said that seeing Tyson act in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman in 1974 made her believe in magic. That moment gave her the strength to dream. She said Tyson made her feel seen and worthy in a world that didn't often do that for dark-skinned girls. She said, "You gave me permission to dream." And when Tyson passed, Davis said she's still working on having the same bravery her mentor showed every day. Even in the 1960s, when Tyson got her first big TV role, people attacked her. She wore her hair short and natural, and Black women wrote her angry letters every week saying she was a bad example. But she never changed. In 1963, she became the first Black woman to lead a television drama with East Side, West Side. She didn't back down. She didn't fold. She stayed the course, and in doing so, she changed what was possible for everyone who came after her.